Peace, 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 fam. How is everybody doing? I guess I'm on a roll here because I am back again with another reading, if you will, an interpretation from the three magic words. And that video I did yesterday, it will drop really soon. So, yeah, I think I'm just going to continue on this trajectory. The planets where they are I guess, supporting me in this because Uranus will be finally leaving Taurus after 7 years. It's been there for 7 years. And I believe on Friday or Saturday, the 26th, I don't remember exactly which day, Uranus will ingress into Gemini. And Gemini is all about creativity and writing and communication and you know, Gemini is the twin sign, of course, so there's a lot of elements to that dynamic in terms of the twin sign. I think for me, Gemini, of course, it to me is the best communicator out of, you know, the zodiac signs. Um, they're so good that, you know, when they get into that low vibrational side, it can be really interesting. Okay, I'll just put it that way. But Gemini really does have an incredible um, gift in terms of communication. And so, with that being said, like I said, I'm being supported. Again, this is Oracle Deborah with the Oracle Deborah podcast on YouTube. Today, again, I am reading from Three Magic Words by Uell S. Andersen. Please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate it. And what I forgot to tell you yesterday, which I will tell you now, is I will put timestamps in the description box below so that you can kind of bypass this beginning, you know, introduction, if you will, and just get right to the reading and the commentary. Okay, so with that being said, let's just kind of get into it. Today I'm going to read from a subtitle called Truth versus Delusion. And when I saw that, I was like, I'm really interested in this. Because when I think of truth, I think of Sagittarius. I also think of Aquarius, right? They're the huge truth tellers in the sign. And when I think of delusion, I think of Pisces, who just ruled by Neptune, actually. Um, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. Your Aquarius is ruled, I guess, is a mix. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and I want to say Mars. Yeah, I think they share ownership of that sign. And again, Neptune is this sign of illusions and delusion, as well as inspiration and, you know, spirituality and, you know, all of that good stuff, right? So there's a lot of juiciness that comes with Neptune. The delusion side is, you know, pretty much the part where, um, you know, things get really muddled. So with that being said, let's get started. I'm gonna try and move this over this way so I'm kind of facing you a little more. And see. All right, so let's get started. Truth versus delusion. It says the duality of mind and the apparent duality of our world is a trying thing to cope with. If things are but thoughts and in true essence merely intelligence cast into form, what then of the ghosts of haunted houses, the disembodied faces and hands of the seance, the specters that we also often attribute to the night? What of the fearful visions of our waking hours and the distorted images of our nightmares? What of the deluded and lost souls who people are who people, our lunatic asylums and fancy neurotics who dwell half in this world, now assuming one personality, now another. So where's the fine line drawn between thoughts becoming things and thoughts becoming delusions, even insanity? So among the insane, there will be found those who think they are birds, those who think they are persons from the past, great persons of our time, various kinds of animals. Among the insane will be found people suffering from all manner of fantastic delusion, which in our view of our saying that a man can become whatever he thinks, might prompt some persons to ask, why has this man who thinks he is Napoleon not become Napoleon, but only insane instead? The answer to this well-taken question is that the very opposite of correct procedure has taken place in the mind of the insane man. Instead of his conscious mind controlling the subconscious mind, it has lost all control. The man is a victim of any passing fancy that may lodge for a moment within whatever conscious facilities he has left. Since there are billions of impressions available to subconscious mind for him to perceive, he simply grasps one according to his attractiveness and adopts it temporarily. He does not become the thing he fancies. His conscious mind flits too rapidly. He is buffeted about in the lap of intelligence by every movement of his subconscious mind. Control is gone. When control goes, there goes insanity, or here comes insanity. So very often we are witness to the same thing and are very aged or infirm. The conscious mind becomes affected and begins to lose control. And before our eyes, we see great changes in personality taking place. Such a person becomes helpless. His thoughts move at random, scattered and haphazardly, casting him now into irrationality, again into extreme lucidness. Okay, so I like this chapter because it is addressing insanity. And a lot of times when we get into this space, the spirituality space, and some of us really delve into it, it is very common for the average man or woman to say, she crazy. They generally like to say she because they like to refer to women as crazy. They rarely, I rarely, if ever, see anyone refer to a man who speaks in that same language and say he crazy. It's rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's rare. The man is more likely to be deemed as deep, philosophical, onto something, charismatic. Oh, that's a preacher. You know, he'll be given a lot of different respectable, titles kind of thing. Some men might might say that the dude is off, but they'll still hang with them because that's the man code, right? That's what they do, you know. And I'm not trying to make this into a feminist thing. Absolutely not. I'm just saying, like, when we're speaking of insanity and we get into this spiritual realm, that word comes up. That's all I'm saying. And there is a difference between how often people will say the words, quote, she's crazy, and how less often they'll say he's crazy. You get what I'm saying? So I'm glad this chapter is breaking down what is actually happening and actually dealing with insanity and what it looks like and how the person kind of gets into that space or place. Um, People took drugs. There was an experiment with LSD, um, PCP, LSD back in the 60s, 70s, something like that. And a lot of our songs, actually, I'm pretty sure those musicians were on a little bit of that because I'm thinking of Strawberry, the song called Strawberry Letter 2023. And when I read those lyrics and studied those lyrics, I was like, nah, they were on something because this is a whole nother realm, you know. Um, that's my guess. I'm not saying it's true, but that's just my guess. Um, but yeah, so let's just get into the text, okay? So it off the bat talks about duality, right? And we know we live in a world of duality, right? Up, down, left, right, in, out, ebb, flow. We just live in a space of duality. That's just the way it is. Good, bad, inside, outside, that kind of thing. Good, you know, joy and sadness, right? So you wouldn't even know joy if you have not experienced sadness, and vice versa. So we live in this world of duality, the space of duality, and the chapter starts off by saying that the duality of mind and the apparent duality of our world, apparent is saying, is a trying thing to cope with. Agreed. Totally agree. Um, and it goes on to say, if things are but thoughts, and in true essence merely intelligence cast into form, what then of the ghosts of haunted houses and disembodied faces and in the seances, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to kind of skip through all of that because, I mean, it does talk about if thoughts become things, like you can become what you think you are, then what happens to the man who says, I'm Napoleon, and ends up being becoming insane as opposed to becoming Napoleon, as he has, I guess, trained his thoughts to be. Like he's tapped in and said, you know, I want to think this thing, I want to be this person, and instead he loses, and we'll get into this, he loses all control of the conscious mind. And that's where insanity comes from. I think the she's crazy, he's crazy, things like that. It's just spoken very, um, you know, it's spoken very loosely, kind of like I love you, the love word, or that's my friend. You know, it gets really loose in these social environments, the words like this, and so sometimes, or a lot of times, or more than likely, we lose the proper context and etymology of a word because of the way we begin interpreting it socially. And that's everyone, every human being across the board. Um, so again, where's the fine line drawn between thoughts becoming things and thoughts becoming delusions, even insanity? Now, I mentioned about that conscious mind. Um, I talked about it in my last video, how important the conscious mind is. Even though we have to focus on our heart, we cannot dismiss the conscious mind because it has its role. And this chapter is doubling down on that, making that clear. Like, there is a role that the conscious mind, our conscious mind, has, and it's critical to who we are as soul beings. So we can't just totally dismiss the conscious mind, right? Because we're trying to tap into the subconscious mind and dislodge, you know, these locks or prompters, programming, conditioning, you know, that we got, you know, over the years, in order to install new programming, a new condition, you know, and a more positive prompter as opposed to a negative prompter, that kind of thing. The conscious mind, again, it processes all of the information. That's it. It doesn't memorize it. It just processes the information. And when we accept a piece of information, a thought, the conscious mind will tag that and send it over to the subconscious mind. And again, sometimes we are aware of what we're doing, but more times than not, most of us are not aware that we accepted certain things into, that came through the conscious mind, and then the conscious mind sent it over to subconscious mind and locks it in. Maybe that's another reason why they call it a lock, right? It locks it in. Okay, boom. This is the way it is. Because our minds work very efficiently. The mind works very efficiently. We think the thoughts, the conscious mind sends it over to the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind says, got it, and brings it into fruition, into the physical realm. And so every time something comes up, even not just when something comes up, we are drawing in now that circumstance, that thing, whatever it is that we agree to, even if we don't want to, even if we don't like it. And we get frustrated because we're like, why is this happening to me? Why does this keep happening to me? It's because that information, that thought got locked in. It's on lock. And so the subconscious mind is automatic after that. Once it goes into the subconscious mind, it goes into the programming. It's just automatic. Okay. So that is the role of the conscious mind. And when someone loses sight of truth, it's because they've lost control of the conscious mind. Now, this doesn't go, this doesn't, this book doesn't go into how the person loses control or what it looks like when you start to lose control. It's kind of like if you get to the point where you actually think you're a Napoleon, that's the evidence right there. Somewhere along the way, you lost control of your conscious mind. You lost control of what reality is. You lost control of, okay, I'm in this reality, and this is what I want to believe, with all my conviction, with all my faith that I am this person, and I emulate this person. I think whenever you get into that realm, when you start emulating another person, is when you basically, this is my interpretation, when you basically start losing control of your conscious mind, because are we are whole in and of itself. We are created by the Almighty, right? So our creation is perfect, right? Even as human beings, and we love to say we are perfectly imperfect, but our existence alone is perfection. So when someone begins to say, I'm that person, I'm that soul over there, I think that's when you start to lose control of your conscious mind. Because why would you want to be that person when you are amazing in and of yourself? It's like an extreme case of self-hatred or self-dislike or self-rejection. So I think that's the difference. Who is when someone starts to basically lose control of who they are. They lose control of the conscious mind. All right, so let's see. I think I just pretty much, let me see. I highlighted something. It says very often we are witness to the same thing in our very age so infirm. So basically they're talking about the elderly when it gets to a certain age and the mind starts to go. Years ago, we used to call it senile. Now they call it dementia or Alzheimer's. With Alzheimer's, there's specific things going on in the brain, but they lose sight of who they are, who other people are. They forget where they are, um, that kind of thing. So that's what they were referring to when which I'm sure you got the aged or the infirm, when they too lose control of the conscious mind due to age, deterioration, natural deterioration. It happens. Um, there was a one day I went walking and there was a woman standing on the corner of the block and she had on these perfectly white socks but no shoes on. And thank God it was warm. Anyway, it was clear that she was, suffering from dementia or something or other. And she kept pointing that her house was one way. And I was like, it was just too far to walk all the way down there and look for that address. And so I basically brought her back to the front of my house. She was aware enough, though, like, I don't want to go in someone's house or go in someone's car. I just need someone to direct me back home, basically. And so I directed her to my home, and another neighbor saw her out there too, and he brought a chair from his house, and I think he might have brought her some water, and we stood around her at a comfortable distance because I think this was also during COVID or post COVID, um, at a comfortable distance. And we just started asking her a lot of information. And she talked about her daughter and, where she was. So she remembered things. And I was able to kind of, we were both like the neighbor and I were researching, where this church was. And I happened to hit the right prompt that literally the person who answered the phone, I asked him if such a person was there. He was like, she's standing right here. It was so amazing. And when her daughter arrived, the mother was actually a little scared because she was like, oh, I hope is not upset with me. But when the daughter arrived, she was in awe because for her, she felt like the neighbor and I were like these, um, she called us angels, basically. Not basically, she called us angels. So for her, we look like these protective angels standing around her mother, making sure that she was safe and, she was protected, but still standing at a distance where she didn't feel, threatened, that kind of thing. So anyway, so some of you may be dealing with that with family members in your home. Okay. Whatever is going on in the brain, they've lost control of the conscious mind. Those who are in insane asylums and things like that, not all of them have lost control of their conscious mind. We know that a lot of our geniuses have been um, sabotaged, if you will, and sent there. So not everyone there, I don't think, um, is insane in that sense. I think, you know, people have a way of sending their loved ones away to getting them out the way, if you know what I mean. Um, so I feel like I just kind of drag this part off. But anyway, that is the gist of this chapter. It does talk less about, I guess it talks about truth through the fact of how people lose sight of the truth through the delusion. I guess I'll put it that way. So just bear in mind that, as you begin to take captive your thoughts, okay, just, I would say just be mindful that you are meditating regularly and making sure that you're staying grounded, so that it doesn't become like a delusion for you. Like if someone is having financial issues and they're saying, I'm standing on the belief that, I'm going to be rich and I'm going to live in this kind of castle and things of that nature. Okay, that's fine, right? You like when you think it and you believe it, and the conviction is there, and the faith is there, and you're standing 10 toes down on it. Then who am I or anybody else to say it won't happen, right? Because this is what the law says. What you believe, what you accept, is what the conscious mind will tag and send over to the subconscious mind. Now, sometimes we say these things, but way in the back of our mind is a lock saying, get out of here. This ain't never going to happen. How do you want to get that kind of money? You don't even have that kind of skill set, blah, 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 right? So it will never come to pass in that sense because there is a seed of doubt lodged into the subconscious mind, and it'll be rejected. It would just automatically be rejected. So you can say it with all your chest, but if there is any seed of doubt whatsoever lost in the subconscious mind, it won't come to pass. So there is more to it. That's why I say it's more to it than just, I'm thinking this and then it's going to happen. It can happen that way, but just not with every single thing. Okay. And I think that's why they gave such an extreme example about a man saying, I'm Napoleon, you know, well, are you really? I think that's a telltale sign too. Again, I'll say this again, is when you start claiming you are someone else, as opposed to saying, admiring someone like Michael Jackson's nephew loves Michael Jackson. He's always studied him. He's watched all of his videos and his performances, and he's just basically been idolizing him in a way, just admiring him since he was a kid. And so he gets to play him in a movie like years later, after less singing lessons, practicing, developing his voice, practicing the dances. Like, so there's a whole process to a lot of these things. And if that's not taking place, then the likelihood of something manifesting, um, it it diminishes because there's not a process in place, if you will. Does that make sense? They say don't say that. Does that make sense? But I say that. All right, beloveds. So that is the chapter on this. I wish it was a little more robust, but because I really want to delve more into truth and delusion, I guess on a more practical level, but this example was so extreme. But the reason I enjoyed it, I liked it, is because it takes away the frivolous use of saying someone is crazy. Okay. If someone has not lost their conscious mind and walking around, in Superman, costumes and thinking they're flying and getting up on the roof and, things like that, that's when you could say, okay, something's wrong here. There's some loss of the conscious mind, some loss of sanity here. But if someone is delving into spirituality, and this realm is so vast, it's so huge, that when someone says, I am going to go on this journey and learn something new in my spirituality, things of that nature, they're saying things with conviction, but honestly, we're all just scratching the surface, to tell you the truth. And we just hope that, what we say today, a year or 2 or 5 years down the road, we can look back on what we said and say, okay, that was good for where I was, or yeah, I was on point, kind of thing. So yeah. So I think that was really just the gist of it. We do live in a a world of duality, or so in this case it says apparent world of duality. But our minds are of a duality. And speaking of duality, that is also Gemini, which is what I started off this video talking about. Um, so that's it. Oh, let me read you the meditation. I felt like, yeah, I felt like that was, I hope I hope that makes sense for someone. Maybe someone gets it or maybe they don't get it, but I hope you do. All right, I'm going to see which of these meditations I want to read to you. So give me 1 second. I'm actually going to put these on for a minute because it's starting to get dark and I'm losing natural light, even though I got glasses up here, but that's for a different purpose. Okay, yeah, let's do this one. All right, so I'm going to need you to get relaxed where you are. If you're driving, keep your eyes on the road. Okay, no, don't get distracted. Um, but of course, if you are at home or somewhere safe where you can sit, relax, or lie down, whichever, just be in a space where you're very comfortable. I want you to breathe in for 5, hold for 5, and then exhale for 5. Now, these are deep breaths, so you want to see your belly expanding when you're breathing in for 5, holding for 5, and exhaling for 5. Well, this last time when we breathe in, again, we're going to breathe in a deep breath, expand our bellies. Breathe in for 5. And when you hold for 5, I want you to see if you can tap the top of your crown with your breath, okay? Kind of get you in a deeper space of groundedness. So you're holding that for 5. And then I want you to exhale for 7. Extend that exhale for me, okay? Very good. So let's begin. It says, I know that all of life exists within me, here in my heart and mind, in the recesses of my being. There is utter calm, a place of unruffled and placid waters, where the truth is apparent and the clamor of the world does not exist. I see about me the thoughts of all mankind, for these thoughts have become things. Whatever is good among these thought things, I accept. Whatever is evil, I ignore. For my concern is only with truth and understanding, which is forever the lovely and the good and the expanding. My mind moves easily to the furthermost reaches of space in all directions, and just as easily moves back to me once again. I am the center of the universe. God, the universal subconscious mind, has made himself manifest through me. I know that my purpose in life is to reach ever upward and outward, to expand in knowledge and love, and I place my future in divine hands. I turn over each problem of my life to that great all-knowing mind to which all things are possible. I do not tell God how to bring these things about. I have complete confidence that every circumstance that comes my way is part of a perfect plan to convert the image of my faith into physical reality. Even now, the universe seeks to answer my every need. As I believe in my heart, so shall it be done unto me. This is the law of life and of living. There is greatness in my friend and in my enemy, for we are all brothers seeking the same high mountain along many paths. God, who made all creatures, made no poor creature, for he made only of himself. I am prosperous, for God owns everything. I am vigorous, for God is all vigor. I need only open my mind and my heart, keep my thoughts in the path of truth, and I am filled to overflowing with the power and abundance and love of the universe. Ashe. By the way, I was reading from you this piece on truth and delusion. It's from the chapter of intuition. So um, this chapter generally just kind of delves into all kinds of juiciness and everything. So yeah, I just want to leave that with you. And I guess my takeaway and what I want to share with you is just that just be conscious of staying grounded. And if you get to the point where it's like you're believing something and it's not happening, and you kind of know that there's a pattern when you're believing and having faith on certain things, and there's no history or pattern of it coming into fruition, then maybe you might be, kind of slipping into a delusional state. I don't mean that to be mean at all. I'm just saying that just don't lose sight and control of the conscious mind. And at that point, I would suggest that you be patient with yourself and make sure you are doing the daily things that you need, Virgo energy, the day-to-day stuff, staying on top of things and practicing or whatever, or just doing what you need to do. And stay faithful, but you probably have to ground yourself in patience because, as they say, a watched pot never boils. All right, beloved, I love you so much. This is Oracle Deborah with the Oracle Deborah podcast on YouTube. Again, please like, please share, and please subscribe. Bye bye.